Hi, I am Pankaj Diwan, founder of IdeaLabs and co-founder of Block91, an end-to-end blockchain solution company. Let's talk about a few use cases of blockchain. Where can blockchain be used? Well, truly speaking, blockchain can be used in every application that you see around, but there are definitely some specific cases which make a lot of sense to use blockchain. And one such application area is supply chain management, which could be in any segment, any sector. Typically, in a supply chain management scenario, you have multiple entities who work across the globe, either supplying some products or processing some products. And very often there is a lot of confusion in terms of the information that is flowing between these business entities. There is also a time lag and a time delay in the information that moves from one entity to other entity. Not to tell about the errors which happen when this information flows from one entity to other entity. What blockchain essentially does is it brings a standardization across all the entities and ensures that it is a single source of truth for all the entities. So you no longer have to transfer information from one business entity to other business entity. When you update information in blockchain, it automatically distributes the same information across all the entities who are involved, of course based on permission. And so every entity in the network has the source of information and has the single source of truth, thus avoiding any confusion of information and also error which may get in when the information gets transported from one end to other end. Of course, there are also human errors which still remain, but those can now be avoided by talking about things like IoT integration and sensors integration, where the information itself gets updated using these sensors, and then of course the information starts flowing between the business entities. So that's one of the very important use cases of blockchain in supply chain management. Similarly, blockchain also makes a lot of sense in areas like pharmaceutical counterfeiting, in areas like art and antique artifacts, where there is always a lot of confusion in terms of the ownership of the product. Now, what blockchain helps is manages and maintains the trace and track of the ownership all through the chain, which means that, and because blockchain is an immutable database, once the data is entered, you're very sure that the data cannot be changed, and that is what brings the trust factor, that is what brings the credibility factor. There are of course a lot of governments, and especially in India we see government of Maharashtra, government of West Bengal, government of Andhra Pradesh and government of Telangana who have been very proactive in adopting blockchain in several use cases. One such use case is land registry. We all know how much of mess it is in terms of the ownership of land or property in India. Typically different departments in the government sector have different records about ownership, and that is where the governments want all this to be cleaned up and put in blockchain so that going forward in future at least this confusion can be avoided. Similarly, we also have the government of Chhattisgarh, which is very actively looking at putting all the government data on a permissioned blockchain network so that the interdepartmental information flow is smooth, which can help in scholarships and other benefits which are transferred. According to some estimates, 35% of the amount of money that has to be spent on welfare actually gets eaten up in a lot of this information transfer and managing and finding out the right information. So I think blockchain will play a very important role in a country like India. It of course improves the perception of public towards government, because once things are put on blockchain, then you have the right perception, you know that the information cannot be manipulated, so it definitely improves the governance and it improves the government to citizen trust. Very often when we talk about blockchain, people have a question about what about the legality of blockchain. Well, let's be very clear about it. Blockchain as a technology has no legal questions. There is one application of blockchain which involves bitcoins or other cryptocurrencies, which of course has been in the discussion in terms of the legality. The use cases in blockchain, or I would say 90% of the use cases around blockchain can work without any cryptocurrency. So blockchain as a technology has already been adopted in various parts of the world, and both Indian government at the highest level, Prime Minister and the Finance Minister has talked enough about using blockchain for various use cases. So there is as such no confusion in terms of the legality of blockchain usage per se. As far as cryptocurrency is concerned, I think worldwide this discussion is on. In fact, there's a very important conference which is going to come up in Hyderabad on August 3rd and 4th, which is called the International Blockchain Congress, where one of the agendas is also to have a dialogue between governments and world leaders on cryptocurrency and blockchain and understand what is the best way of probably adopting cryptocurrency. Incidentally, this conference is being hosted by Niti Aayog, Government of Telangana, Government of Goa and Nucleus Vision. So I think these are very exciting times, and it's a matter of time when there will be some regulatory framework which will be put in place to ensure that the cryptocurrency and other applications are also allowed. One of the questions people ask about cryptocurrency is about the anonymity, and people say, look, if it's so anonymous, how will the governments keep trace of it? Well, the fact of matter is that whenever anything is put on the digital framework, it actually becomes easier to trace things, of course with an appropriate regulatory framework. Governments across the world and central banks across the world have started to accept the fact that cryptocurrency is something which cannot be avoided now. I think it's a matter of time when the government of India will also come up with some cryptocurrency related framework.